situation, something could change, and then you won't know. Where do we go from here? It seems so all too clear. It's just as far beyond as I can see. I still don't know what this all means to me. I can't know where to go. I don't know what to do. And I don't even know the time of day. I guess it doesn't matter anyway. Destination unknown. Your destination. It's unknown. Your destination unknown. Destination unknown. Your destination. It's unknown. Your destination. When will mountain come? Has it all been said and done? I know I'll leave when it's my time to go. Till then I'll carry on with what I know. Destination unknown. Your destination. It's unknown. Your destination unknown.
I've got this impression of floating, being levitated. It's like I'm swimming underwater. My entire body feels numb. It's the middle of the night, but it's light. They have huge black almond-shaped eyes. It's like they just look right through you. They're running their fingers down my back, as if they're counting the vertebrae in my spinal column. I'm thinking, why am I here? I want to be one of them. I want to be one of me, but I can't be both. It didn't matter anyway, because this bright light came over me and enveloped me, and I blanked out.
Destination unknown. Your destination. It's unknown. Your destination unknown. Life is so strange. Life is so strange. Life is so strange. Life is so
Welcome back to a little bit of synergy. Season 4 episode, Who Cares? It's our 100th episode. It's some shit, isn't it?
Right.
Number 100, and we're going back to make, because it's only fitting, with my very first guest, Amy Rosato Novakova. What are we going by?
So in Slovakia, the OVA is like how you, if you're female, it's how you present. It's like Miss or
Hmm.
Mrs. So the men in the house are Novak, the women are Novakova.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very excited to have you here, Amy. It's definitely an honor having you back. Like I said, it's only fitting. I'd be remiss if I didn't mention that Sam is missed. He's not here with us tonight. He had some pressing issues that didn't allow him to be here, but we're here. Tell me what's new, Amy.
I turned 50 this year.
Mm.
Mm,
Congrats.
thank you.
Congratulations. Yeah, no, it's huge.
Half a century.
Mm.
So, uh, big life change. I think it makes you evaluate what the next 50 are going to look like,
Mhm.
what the last 50 taught you, what lessons you learned, what lessons you didn't learn, what do you want to take, what do you want to scrap, and then how do you want to move forward with the next 50?
Okay. Well, what do you have? Have you made any modifications to the agenda immediately?
I think there's something about turning 50 that just kind of begs the question, why do I worry so much? Why do I care so much? Why do I waste time? When you're 20 years old, you have time to waste. You spend your time with friends and people that don't really serve you, that don't really heal you or help you, but you don't care because you have energy to burn. Then you turn 30 and you kind of quit caring what people think, but you still feel that need for belonging and community. And then I think your 40s, you're so focused on your family and your paying your bills. And then I think 50 was just really liberating, just like none of it even matters in a real sense. I think you start to live a lot more intentionally, like stupid things, like it's not even about goals and retirement and all that crap, but it's like, okay, when I walk out my door today, how can I be the best version of myself? How can I walk out and not only not cause harm to others, but how can I change the world, one ripple at a time? How can I be nice to the neighbor whose dog barks all night long? Do I go up to the neighbor and say, hey, your dog sucks? It woke me up at 5 a.m. Or do I go to that neighbor and say, hey, your dog's barking more than usual? What's going on? Like, how's life treating you? Can I help you?
Mm.
I think caring more about the planet and caring more about other people and the fact that there's no time to waste and there's no time to lose. We walked in a breakfast place the other day and I saw this beautiful little girl walk up to this other little girl and they just instantly became friends.
Mm.
I watched senior citizens walk in a grocery store and greet each other. And I'm like, what is happening between preschool and the nursing home? Why aren't we doing that to other people?
Mm. Yeah, good question. It's a good question. It begs the question to us individually. You know, like you said, the best version of ourselves, being that change that you want in your sphere. It all starts with your sphere, and the ripple, the butterfly effect. You know,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm right there. I'm
But I'm like, why aren't they teaching that in school? Like, why aren't we teaching crazy things like life skills? And I just recently took a financial class, which I have a teenager and
Mhm.
I made her go with me because I'm like, I would spend $100 a night at a bar on a bar tab.
Mhm.
If I had invested that same money, I would have been a millionaire by the time I was 45 years old.
Yeah.
But no one taught me how to do that. So it's like, okay, how do I, that's my 14-year-old. Somebody was like, well, your kid was on the computer half the time while she was in the class doing her homework. I said, listen, if she only got 2 nuggets of wisdom from that class, she's further ahead than I am. So, in all aspects, like you're saying, in all of our spheres, financially, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, psychologically, like how are we gaining the knowledge and wisdom instead of just wasting our time being consumers? And I mean that, emotionally consuming, being around people who aren't good for us,
Mhm.
physically eating and I'm guilty of it. I love Dr. Pepper. I'm trying to work on it. It's really hard, but I know it's not good for my body. But at the same time, it's like, okay, how do I just live life so intentionally that I set myself up for success? Now, I can't change the past. I can't regret what I did. I had a really good time in my 20s. But at the same time, it's like, in part of my 30s, but it's like, okay, well, I have 50 more years. And I think that's part of it is we still feel 25 on the inside and we look in the mirror and like, yeah, but it's almost over. We're already 50 or we're already 60. Like we're pretty much done. And it's like, no, man, you've got 50 more years. That's a long time.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? I think is that Mary Oliver, the poetess who died not too long ago during COVID, it's like, what are you doing with this one life that you have? I don't have it all figured out. I don't know what the next 50 look like, but I know when I walk out my door, I'm like, what does today look like? Uh, you know, I really I don't agree a lot with a lot of Alcoholic Anonymous because I think speaking that over yourself all the time, I'm an alcoholic. I'm an alcoholic. I'm an
Right.
alcoholic. You're perpetuating the cycle, right? But
Mhm.
I think there's something to that whole just take it one day at a time. Like, what do the next 24 hours look like to me? So enlighten me. What's this year been like for you? What is the last 100 episodes? What have you gleaned from what you've been doing?
Can you repeat that? It just cut out a little bit.
Oh, sorry. So what has the last year been like for you? What has the last 100 episodes taught you? Like where are you at?
Wow. Uh, Amazing. Everything that the culmination of it all is it bowls me over. I can't believe I'm still doing this. I really can't. It's become hit or miss, you know, but you know, other and I've been very consumed with lately. I've been very consumed with uh, just life. You know, you talk about doing it one day at a time. It's minute to minute. It's all one long day for me. You know, I I my sleep is catch as catch can. I and I'm just going and going. I changed career paths since we spoke last.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm not with Apple anymore. I'm an HVAC service technician right now.
okay. That's a big leap.
Yeah, well, I'm making more money than I was with
Okay.
Apple. I'm
Okay.
happier. I'm more content. I'm getting my fix, um, technically and mechanically, and just stuff I wasn't getting just sitting here. Even though they had me in management,
Mhm.
and that was good. I was climbing the ladder. I was on a career path, I guess you'd say, but I was just decaying. My
Mm.
everything, my spirit. Well, I mean, I that was when I started Synergy.
Mhm.
That I was so desperate for an out that I released an album. Um,
Wow.
Yeah, I'm about to release a second album. Um, I I did some side projects with some other creatives
Mhm.
over the past few years. Met some phenomenal people, you know, just just really dive deep over and over and just shared so many perspectives, so many different souls. Um, uh, and it's just great, you know, because I get to reach. These are all. This is my spheres, you know,
Right.
and this is how this is a documentary. This whole
Mhm.
thing is a documentary. If whether I make another 100 episodes or whether this is it makes no difference. This is a landmark. You know, I'm really proud, and again, I'm very happy that you're here, Amy. Um,
Thank
it's very cool. But what have I learned? Uh,
you.
I,
Yeah.
I I'm just me. I'm just a simple some phenomenal things just thanks to current metaverse technology as it is, you know, because I I got to, oh wow, I don't know. I could go on and on about all the great people I've met, and the great conversations, and I listen to this. I'm a fan of the show. I spend a lot of time in my vehicle traveling between place to place, and I listen to old episodes, you know, and I'm like, you know, I gain from it. And
Well, that's what you said. You have a charted growth. Like you can, yeah, you can go back and listen and be like, wow, that situation, or how I thought about that, or how my creativity was doing at that time. Like you have a you have a timeline for yourself. Like you have a recorded, like a photo album. You basically, like when we grew up, you had photo albums. You
mhm,
have that recorded, all those tracks where you can go back and really chart and mark your growth. And that's, most people don't have that.
mhm. It was very accidental, you know. It it all began going back. It was just me and Sam, two homeboys, known each other for over 30 years, pretty much living parallel lives, you know, going lost touch for a while, and then we got catch back up, and then we were like, you know, I really think we need to have this preserved somehow. This conversation we've been having for decades that just keeps going and going and going. Um, so yeah, that's how it began.
I saw somebody in a wedding, and he this was years ago. It was probably about 10 years ago. And he said, yeah, he said, I've started reaching out to people in my life that in my past were really good friends. And he said, I'm as I age, he said, as I have life experience, I'm going back and I'm almost like cherry picking the people
Mhm.
that were so remarkable and really kind of classic and timeless, that their friendship, not just, trauma buddies, not just party buddies, like people that were really pivotal. And going back, some people say, well, that person was there for a season of my life. That was 20 years ago. I don't want to, that times moved on. I don't want to reconnect with them. And it's like, that's what was it, Socrates or Aristotle, I forget. The mark of a true soulmate is someone that you can speak to and it's like no time has ever passed.
Mm,
So finding those people that help you cultivate the type of life that, creatively, energetically, mentally, physically, spiritually, that you are also, I guess maybe on your same wavelength or on your same vibe. And, it could be someone, like you said, you and Sam leading parallel lives. It could be someone who, you know, totally different sphere of everything in their life, but there's something about their heart and
mm,
something about their energy and their creativity that it's like, no matter if you're no matter what you're doing occupation wise, no matter what you're doing family wise, no matter what you're doing travel wise, like whoever you are, there's those people that you go back and you recollect, because it's like, man, those are the type of friends as you go into the next phase of life that it's like, I want those people on the mothership.
Yes, I like that.
As we get older, friendships, you have family. I happen to be married and have a kid, and it's like I don't have time to go out. I'm not 20 years old actively going out seeking more friends, trying to I don't need people to fill my time with, because I have priorities and I have people in my life that I have my own sphere, right? So I think you get picky as you get older. It's like who you can be kind, like that's what I've learned teaching senior citizens. You can be kind and loving to every person that you meet. You can have your cup overflow so that you spill onto others. You can be blessed to be a blessing. But the people that you let inside your heart, the people that you let become almost like family, those people, that's like, instead of just mining, I was always mining fool's gold in my 20s, spending time with people that if I called at 3 a.m. because my tire's flat, they'd hang up the phone. But they were
Yeah.
the first ones to call me to party. So it's like I'm looking for people, kind of ride or die people at this point. I'm looking for
Yeah.
people that are jewels, that are precious gems. And it's like, okay, those are the people that are going to be, yeah, on the mothership for the next 50 years. Like those are the kind of people. And I think you find, like with Sam, people say, well, I've been friends with this person for 20 years or 30 years. There's no more to learn from them. We've already gone down the road. Our friendship kind of burned out. And I think that's why a lot of people dating or married kind of, I don't want to be married anymore. I don't love this person anymore. I don't like this job anymore. I'm not saying jobs don't come to an end, but I'm just saying, like, I think we're very quick with, we have a hard time with commitment these days. I think society, just says next, it's instant gratification. And it's like, okay, what can I do? I'm bored with this friendship. It's been 20 years. And it's like,
Hmm.
no, man, you haven't even scratched the surface.
Yes. 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 You remember the old I don't know, the first thing that pops in my head is the old song that we learned in Bible school, make new friends, to keep the old.
Yeah.
One is silver and the other's gold. I know it's cheesy,
Yes. No, but it's true.
but
And
it's true.
I'm like, why didn't I know this in my 20s? Like, why was I remember, I'm just gonna get really real. I'll just be really real. I ended up dating a guy. I'd gone home with someone that I had met at a bar. And come to find out, I didn't know this at the time. Come to find out, he was separated. We make plans to go on another date. At this time, I know he's separated. I
Mm.
was in a pretty downward spiral. I'm 20 something years old. Parents are getting divorced. My life's falling apart. I'm pretty much at the bottom of the pool, right? I'm at the bottom of the deep end. I'm pretty much rock bottom at this point, going out all the time, partying. And I had this one friend who looked at me and said, what you're doing is wrong.
Mm.
I was like, I'm 23 years old, like YOLO, whatever. They're separated. And I had one friend who's like, I'm willing to risk our friendship to tell you that you don't want to do this. You don't need to do this. You shouldn't do this. She said it with loving kindness. And then all
Mm.
my party buddies were like, who cares? Like, you only live once. Like, forget that. Who cares what the circumstances? Blah, blah, blah. Do what feels good. Do what you like. Do what that
Yeah.
one friend that I was going to be best friends for the rest of my life, I don't speak to her. The friend who told me the truth and said, hey, what you're doing is wrong. That person has another person. And you don't know if they're going to get back together, but they have a they have a relationship. Like you're getting in the middle of something, and I was totally single. Like to
Mhm.
me, married people should have single friends. Like it was I had absolutely no clue, right? So the one friend told me the truth and she risked our friendship to do that. I don't talk to that other girl who told me to do whatever I felt like was great or whatever I wanted to, but I've reconnected with that friend and we're still friends. Yeah, 30 years later. And it's like, man, that's who I want in my life. I want a person in my life who will tell me when I'm screwing up, who will tell me the truth. I don't need to hear what I think I want to hear. I don't need someone to tell me what they think I want to hear. I need truth in my life and I need honesty and I need loyalty. And the rest of it, I don't have time for.
I love it. Hmm. Yeah, and those are three qualities that I would devote and divulge or and do.
Yeah.
into my relationships. I do. Particularly loyalty.
Yes.
Big on that one.
I don't mean that about jobs. Like, I heard that you totally shifted your life, but here's what I don't get the sense that you weren't committed to Apple. I don't get the sense that you weren't willing to ride it out. But what I'm seeing is the fruit. And what I'm hearing you say is, man, I let go of that job. I switched jobs and I'm creating more. I'm happier. I
Mhm.
found you sound freer. And
Mhm.
so I don't think every marriage or every job or every relationship, or I think some things do have an expiration date.
Mhm. Yes.
But I think we need to be aware that just because fruit is a week old or 2 weeks old doesn't mean it doesn't still have flavor, and doesn't mean it's not still for us. But I think especially with a job, and I mean, you said you saw yourself basically diminishing, like you saw
Mhm.
yourself unhappy. So what did your family think about? That's a pretty big life change.
What now? It
What
cut
did
out
what did
again.
what did your family think about your career change?
Um, well, it happened so fast. Um, I was I literally had the new job in 3 days. My best friend was like, "Hey,
Wow.
come work with me. Fall back on the trade that you had. I had 6, 7 years in already.
Okay.
It was a step up into a senior position. I'm no longer in the
Okay.
front doing the installation
Uh-huh.
work. And again, I have total respect for all of my
Yeah.
way to service, which means you call me when it doesn't heat or when it doesn't cool, and I try to fix it, and usually can. I'm batting about 85%, you know. But yes, much more fulfilled, much in motion is the thing. You know, I've lost 15 pounds. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it was just nothing but sedentary excess, unnecessary. You know, it was time to spring forward and just erupt. And so,
Okay.
all of a sudden I'm in this season of growth again, out of nowhere. You know, due to circumstances beyond my control, all coming together synchronously, and as such is the way it all would. Everything falls into place, and you find yourself where you were meant to be.
I think that's part of what experience does. It teaches, that's what I meant by worry. I think, I just see this picture of like when you're young, you're always, in your 20s, you're sitting on the float, hanging out in the pool with your beer or your joint or whatever it is you're doing. In
Mm.
your 30s, you're trying to swim the laps. In your 40s, I think you're not trying to get somewhere, you're just enjoying the water. And in your 50s, you kind of go back to that floating. What I mean by that is you stop worrying. It's like, I don't care when people ask me what I do anymore.
Mm.
I'm not trying to, I'm no longer trying to please society. I'm trying to please myself and my family. Okay. So I, I recently took a job. I teach water aerobics to senior citizens. And,
Cool.
I have family members who are like, you need to get a full time job and you need to do this. You're working at 4 different facilities. You're running all over the place. And it's like, you know what? I could go back and be a school teacher. First of all, I had a 6-year-old turn over a desk. So I'm like, I'm pretty much done with that.
Mm.
Um, but I was like, for the first time in a really long time, I'm happy. Now, do I wish it paid more money? Yes. But at this point, I'm not so concerned about, I mean, I have an iPhone 7 and I don't care as long as it still answers. I always wanted to live in the city and I always wanted to have all the things. And now I'm like, I think you just start to value what's important. You really get down to the nitty gritty of life, and you get down, what's important is your health. I don't need a Mercedes. I need to be healthy. I don't need to wear Lululemon clothes. I need to be happy. I don't need for my children. I'm not one of those parents. Some people need that. They need their children to play 87 sports and be the best at this club and that thing. I just need my child to wake up and know that she's loved.
Yes.
And that to me is success. Success is having insurance, medical insurance. For me, that's success.
Yeah.
Not driving a Bentley, not keeping up with Beyonce, not having a Mercedes, not being a size whatever the world's telling me to be, like really being happy in my own skin. And I think I was kind of happy in my own skin earlier. And that's what I think we miss out from like teenagehood until 50. I think we really don't teach people. I think instead of in school, geometry, I'm sure is very important. I'm sure trigonometry is very important, and algebra and chemistry and all those things. But I'm like, we need to be teaching kids and people how to be happy within themselves. I've walked through addiction with friends, and I'm like, the drugs, the drinking, the whatever it was, that was a symptom.
Mm-hmm.
What are we doing to fix the root cause? I live in a city where they have clean needle stations.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, they don't need clean needle stations. They need therapy. I need to know why this girl is so wounded that to her, smoking crystal meth and being high for 20 minutes, what is the pain she's trying to numb? And how can we help her with that? Because if we help her with that, the crystal meth she won't need the crystal meth. I live in a big city and I see people, freebasing on the corner. You're in traffic. There's a cop station 2 miles from you. Like, you're at that point in your life where you don't even care.
Yeah.
That's what we need to be doing, is teaching kids in school identity and who they are and how to be happy and how to be healthy, not because trauma is a part of life. Oprah Winfrey's like, everybody's had a bad childhood. Like, at this point, everybody's had trauma. Everybody has had something go on in their life. It's just society. And so how do we, instead of band-aiding it, how do we help that and heal that? And it's like, okay, well, I'm not a legislator and I'm not, but again, it goes back. How can I love that neighbor who's fighting with their partner? The dogs are picking up on the bad energy and the dogs are barking. So maybe just me knocking on the door and saying, hey, like, how can I help you? Like, what can I do? Like, I think it, like you said, it's that ripple, it's that butterfly effect. We have to start really small because I think if we don't, I really, people tell me that all the time. They're like, how did you think it was a good idea to have kids in society right now?
Mm-hmm.
I have friends that are like, we've chosen not to have kids because this world is so screwed up. And I'm like, I get that. It's always been screwed up. We just have the internet now. So now we see it live instead of it,
Mm-hmm.
but light is what actually destroys darkness. And so how can I change the world? Well, I can raise a human being who's strong in herself, who's happy and healthy, and hopefully she'll end up with someone who's done the work themselves. They'll be happy and healthy, and they'll spawn more children who'll be happy and healthy. And eventually, if enough people keep doing that, it's like growing up Catholic, not anymore, but we'd go to those Christmas Eve and they would take the candle and it'd be a dark room and that light would go, you'd light a candle and they'd pass that light around. That sounds simple. It sounds a little kumbaya, but nothing else that the government has come up with or society has worked so far. TikTok isn't solving the problem. The political parties aren't solving the problem. So, Anthony, I think it's up to us. Like, how are you going to solve the problem? Take your little light out and light your neighbor's candle. Maybe that's too easy. I'm sure I need to go back and listen to some more of your podcast because other people have probably told you the exact beautiful, scientific, glorious definition that would change the world. But mine's just kind of simple.
No, we don't always reach for the highest of heights like we're doing right now, you know. But that's cool, you know. I'm all about, and just improving, just and sharing that. And your perspective is very fresh, you know. So yes, leftover from Catholicism, I feel a lot of the what you're saying right there about but metaphysically I feel it too.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
talking about transmitting infectious energy of your own, which but you've got to have it. You've got to have it in order to spread it. Otherwise, what are you transmitting? I guess.
Well, I think that's part of it is that, especially growing up in the South too, there's, I visited over Thanksgiving and the whole thing is like, as I said to my mom, I said, I did not realize how, people aren't allowed to have boundaries. Like I remember saying something to someone and they were like, "Oh, but we can do this." And I was like, "No, I'm good." And they're like, but they kept pressing the issue. And I'm not saying people aren't people everywhere. That's not what I'm saying. But I think I always thought of the South as a really passive aggressive place. But I'm like, actually, I think it's more, there's a lack of boundaries. And I think that's something we need to teach to children because if you had those boundaries, if I'd had some of those boundaries, I wouldn't have made the mistakes that I've made. And I'm not blaming, sometimes it takes people longer to do the work. Sometimes people have boundaries in their 20s. They know what to do, they get it done. But I think, especially as a female growing up Catholic, and especially as a female growing up in the South, it was people pleasing and always, that politeness of the South and, being kind and not trying to hurt other people's feelings. And it's like, and that's another thing about turning 50. I'm like, I'm sorry I hurt your feelings, but my family and I, I'm Peter, you're Paul, and that's between y'all. Like I'm over here doing what serves me, what helps me and heals me creatively, mentally, emotionally, physically, spiritually. If that doesn't jive with what you're doing, I'm sorry, but I'm going to do what I'm doing. And the power, just having that power and that authority in your own life to be like, yeah, I don't have to say yes to every holiday party. I can say, no, I'd actually rather sit in my pajamas and go to bed at 9 o'clock than go to your beautiful party. Ask me next year. I might change my mind, but I don't have to. I felt like, especially being Catholic, there was a lot of guilt. Like, God wants me to keep being nice to so-and-so because I'm supposed to turn the other cheek. And it's like, nowhere in the Bible does it say, please be in an abusive situation. Yeah. I don't have to be friends with narcissists. I don't have to spend my time doing something I don't want to do. And that's, that feeling that's really liberating, that freedom of like, man, I'm 50 and I don't want to go to your party because I think your party might suck. So I'm just going to tell you no. And I can do that. And I'm okay with that. So having that type of freedom and being that way, I'm like, man, what if we taught that freedom to our kids in school? Like, what if we taught boundaries? And what if we taught, I think we need to teach them about money is like the second thing everybody needs to know about money. But yeah, what if we just taught them to be strong in their identity and who they are, whether they live in Georgia, Chicago, wherever they live, right? I think that's something that we're missing out as a society. I remember I saw these two kids fighting one day and I pulled over and my daughter's like, "Oh my gosh, stay in the car. You're embarrassing me." I was like, if that kid falls against the curb right there, he could fall and hit his head and break his neck. Like, as a mother, I cannot sit here and watch that happen. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, man, here's another kid videotaping it, not helping the child who's getting beaten up. I see cars driving by here and no one stopped but me. And I was like, listen, not on my watch. Like
Yeah.
I think sometimes we were too big brother and too in other people's business. But I think now we've gone the opposite way where we turn a blind eye to people that are in pain mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. We've lost the ability to have boundaries, right? To
Mhm.
have fences, but to still be a good neighbor.
Wow. Yes. Yes. That sums up that what you were saying perfectly. Wow.
Was that Robert Frost, that poem, the thing about good fences make, good neighbors. I can't remember the poem now. Jeez Louise. This is why you shouldn't drink in your 20s. Here's a service ad for everybody. So you shouldn't overindulge in alcohol, $100 bar tabs a night. But yeah, it's a Robert Frost poem about how you have to have boundaries, but you can still be loving and kind, right? And still be in your own, you can still love your fellow employees, but say, you know what, Apple, you're no longer serving me and my family. Thank you for 15 years. Thank you for my 401k. I'll be leaving now.
Yeah. With no love lost, like you said, we put the
Love you.
life was on it. There was a life placed upon it, and the time was over.
Yeah.
But I love how you just illustrated that point. That was perfect because yes, we've gone the way of the dodo as far as caring for one another.
Yeah.
And there's a fine line between being self-serving,
Right.
and well, and again, that's what you began the podcast with, that talk, talking about reaching out to the neighbor with the dog, because something's amiss, and that is in your sphere. It is within your power.
Well, the first thought is me, right? Your dog's
Mm.
barking, your dog's bothering me. It's about me. And it's like, wait a minute, something's going on over there. Like, especially I've really developed, I don't know what happened. Like I've always loved animals, but I'm like really more attuned to animals in the last probably 2 years. I don't know why. I feel like animals are just sometimes more fun than people, I guess. I don't know. But at this point, but it's like, maybe my life has slowed down a little bit. So I'm able to really be more patient and really, like I started watching birds. I'm like, what is that about? Like, anyway, but yeah, just being concerned for the dog. Like, what kind of stress is this dog going through that this dog is now barking 24 hours a day? Like, and it's like, okay, maybe the neighbor's elderly and maybe the neighbor can't walk the dog anymore. So it's like, could you help not only the dog, right? Because we always want to do what's best for animals, but like, yeah, what's going on with that person who's hoarding dogs that has 87 dogs? Our first go-to is judgment. Like,
Mhm.
they're hoarding, they're terrible. That person's this, that person's that. And it's like,
Mhm.
same with the drugs, it's like, oh, well, they're drug addicts. And it's like, yeah, but haven't you asked yourself why?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. I've been asking myself about a couple of customers that I've had recently. I came across, and I came to them bowled over by the smell of animals. As soon as I come in the house, I'm like, okay, this is an animal house.
Yeah.
And I get in and I see where the animals have taken over,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
and I just wonder at what point did they give up, or what point was, you know what I mean? Because it's a sad situation.
Yeah. Yeah, you're collecting things or people because you feel like the more insulin, because you feel vulnerable and you feel like there's nothing around you. So all that mountain of things around you or animals around you, you feel needed or you feel loved or you feel, valued or you feel, and all of that is just everything on the outside is really, representation of what's going on the inside. I remember being a teenager and one of my mom's friends being like, Pasco, my brother, like wore all this like spike collars and like all this business and these leather jackets and,
Mhm.
being a good Catholic family, I remember someone asking my mom, like, why do you let your son be weird like this?
Mhm.
And my mom was like, I would rather his weird be on the outside than on the inside where it could fester and cause him problems.
Mhm.
And I think things like hoarding or drug addiction or all of those symptoms, right, that we see as society and go, shame, shame, shame. It's like, well, again, like, what's the root cause? Like, that person's family's all gone. So now she collects dogs. No one needs grandma anymore, the grandma down the street. So now she's got 27 puppies
Mhm.
crapping in her house and smelling up her house and not really getting the love and veterinary care that they need and deserve. But I think we're just so quick to snap at people because because society has really kind of promotes that whole worry about your stuff, um, let them worry about theirs. That's not my problem. Instead of understanding that, yes, it does affect you. Yes, you're an HVAC and you're going in and seeing this. It does affect you. It affects the neighborhood. It affects everything is everything. And that sounds really simple. It's that whole, reggae system, that whole metaphysical is that, everything in the universe is really all connected and it's really all one. I don't think that disenfranchises. I don't think that negates anything that Christianity is teaching, right? God is love. Love is God. If you want to call it the universe, if you want to call it Allah, if you want to call it Buddha, like whatever you're calling it, they all kind of have the same verbiage is that everything and everyone is connected. And it's like to say that lady down the street hoarding dogs or that person on the corner smoking crystal meth has nothing to do with me. It's like it has everything to do with you because we're all breathing the same air. So kind of it's that big circle, right? So, okay, well, I'm not a drug counselor and I can't help that lady smoking crystal meth. Why is that my problem? And it's like, it is your problem because people are suffering. So how do you, and like you said, you can't help every person on the corner. I can't help people in Chicago. I don't live there, but I can be loving to my neighbor. And maybe my neighbor is the grandmother or the brother or the sister or the uncle or the cousin or the sibling of that girl in Chicago who's shooting up on the side of the street, just longing for someone to haul her to jail because she
Yeah.
hasn't eaten in a
Yeah.
few days
Yes.
and she has no place to sleep.
Mhm.
Jail looks like a better option for her.
Mhm.
Um, some people have big spheres. Like you have a podcast. Some people are able to reach thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people. I'm like a mom who teaches water aerobics. So it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean that your life is tiny. You might be, a bagger at a grocery store. You might be the post office worker. You might be um, a car mechanic. You might be, a lawyer, a doctor, whatever it is. It's like I think sometimes we think our lives are tiny, or then some people think their lives are really important. And it's like, no, we're pretty much all on the bus together. We're all on the struggle bus pretty much most days. So how can you help that person make sure they get to their stop?
Okay.
So
Mm,
yeah.
yeah. That's one thing that this endeavor has taught me is that we all, like you said, we're all we're all just folks, you know.
Yeah. What is it? Thoreau says, wherever you go, there you are. And that was always kind of my thing. If I can just get out of Birmingham, if I can just have this job, if I could just have a kid, if I could just get married, if I could just do this, if I could just do that. And it's like, what if none of that, it just goes back to that same, what are you doing with this one incredible life? Like,
Mm.
what if you don't have a podcast? Or what if you become Christina Aguilera or Beyonce or, a senator? Like, we all have to live with what we're contributing, what we're giving and what we're taking,
Mm.
and I don't think you have to really, I think you can be atheist, you can be agnostic, you can be Jewish, you can be Muslim, you can be any of those things. But I think hidden somewhere deep in our hearts is that theory that, like, whatever you put out, whatever you sow, you reap. I mean, that's a principle in the physical world.
Mm.
Seeds fall to the ground, flowers grow up. Like, I think, there's those common tropes that we all share, and karma is one of them. And it's like, if you're going to yell over the fence, shut up, dog, instead of knocking on the neighbor's door, you're just perpetuating that. You just keep creating the same, was it Einstein says, you keep doing the same insanity. The definition of is keep repeating the same actions and, expecting a different outcome.
Different results. Yes. And
So
I resonate with that. Like I can think of years of repeated attempts,
yeah,
just okay, this time's gonna be better. No, this time's gonna work. It never did. How we learn. It's how we learn. And it sharpens us in the process,
Yeah.
I mean, it when we do finally get to that point where we're like, all right, screw this. Enough of that. It's time to go on and mature into whatever it is that this is trying to teach me, But yeah, when you usually do walk away from those pretty well warm from the war that you've been fighting.
Yes. I had a brother who passed away, and people come up to me all the time and they're like, I've never lost anyone. I don't know what to say to you.
Mm.
And I'm like, here's the deal, like I just recently lost my first student,
Oh.
and it was like, her funeral was amazing. It was this huge celebration of life. It was so beautiful. But the point is, people are like, well, I don't know what to say to her kids. And I said, here's the deal. There's nothing you can really say. If you've never lost anyone, or anything really, there's something going through pain and suffering, like you're saying, it really does sharpen you, and, experience is the best educator. And until you've lost something or someone valuable, you can't understand what it's like. Right. And so, I was like, that person just needs you to sit with them. Like, there are no words you can say. You're not going to make it better. You just say, I'm so sorry. Can I sit here with you? Can I be with you? Can I do anything? And, a lot of people really rush in grief to help someone the first year. I don't send cards. I don't the first year, because everybody's all around you.
Mhm.
But after that year, right? So things go in seasons of our lives.
Yeah.
People decide they're over it, which is natural. It wasn't their sibling or their spouse or their mother or their father or whomever, their significant other. And so they move on.
Yeah.
So what I like to do is the second year and the third year and the fourth year, I like to send cards then, because then the world has forgotten them, but they have not forgotten that person they've lost. Like, that Father's Day comes and they're gutted.
Mhm.
Everybody else is like, oh, what'd you do Father's Day? And you're like, yeah, he died 3 years ago. Yeah. But here, Mother Teresa had a quote, and she said, um, people would not do what they do, basically, if they knew better. I'm paraphrasing. But, I don't think people are malicious or cruel or even judgmental on purpose. Oh, that homeless person, why doesn't he just get a job? I don't think they mean to be cruel or unkind. I think it's just, if you don't know, you don't know until you've been through it.
Mhm.
You don't know what it's like.
Yeah.
And so I think that's something too. Empathy is something that, I don't know. I'm hopeful. I feel like this generation is a lot going on. It's a lot extra. They're all about their feelings,
Mm.
which is a lot. My husband works in the medical profession, and they had trained a bunch of employees, a bunch of nurses, and they were leaving. And he said, "Why are you leaving?" And this person was like, "Well, I can't have a drink on the floor anymore. Like they won't let me have a like my Coke or my water. So I'm gonna quit." And my husband was like, "What? Like, what?" And this person was like, "Yeah, that hurts my feelings." So like, oh my gosh, dude. And he came home and relayed the story to me. I was like, millennials, right?
Mhm.
So if you're upset or offended, you just leave because you can just jump from job to job, which there's a lot of freedom in that, our parents and our grandparents are like, I hate my job. I wake up miserable every day, but I'm going to go to the same job for 50 years and basically my life's going to suck. So I appreciate the fact that there is this newfound, I'm not sure it's altogether altruistic always, but there is this newfound, like, hey, I know my value, whether it's really coming from a place of wisdom, I'm not sure, but there is that, hey, I know my value and I'm not willing to put up with anything that devalues me. I totally respect that. And I think this new generation is empathetic.
Mhm.
And I think we will start to see a shift in, I think feeling and caring are coming back because I feel like there's a lot of compassion and empathy. I see them sharing that with each other. I read comments. I'm not on Instagram, but I'm on Pinterest, and a lot of it's Instagram, or, I watch these reels, and people will tell like a really traumatic situation. And I just see so much empathy coming from their peers. And I'm like, that's really awesome. It gives me a lot of faith that that the tides are kind of turning, and that there is a big, huge shift in kindness and compassion.
My grandson, his
Mhm.
generation, yeah, he has an enormous heart, but at the same time, um, he's got his own agenda,
Yeah,
and that comes first, you know.
right.
So, and he cares tremendously about you and what's going on with you and how you're feeling, but at the same time, it's like, okay, put this first, let's
Yeah.
so yeah.
How is being a grandfather different than being a parent?
Mm. It's more carefree. Um, you know, I mean, I like you, I wasn't a total helicopter, but I was very involved in their lives. And as such, um, you know, I felt everything. I was there for play by play.
Mm.
And with the grandkids, not as much. It really is it's like all the best, all the best parts of being a parent, and then without the discipline, you don't you hand that off to the parents. You don't interfere with the parents' decisions. You don't, when they're like, it's like, Papa, you know, I can't, I
Oh.
can't interfere. I can't go against what your dad said, you know,
Mm. How has that changed your relationship with your son?
like this. We're like
Do,
this, yeah.
do you think now that he's had his own child, I think for me, it gave me a new level of understanding. My thing was my parents were always parenting me out of lack, or you didn't give me this, or you didn't do this, or you weren't this for me. And now as a parent, it's like, man, this is really hard.
Mhm.
Like I had a lot more compassion for my parents. Like, oh. okay, and then I value things that I felt like were such an infraction upon my soul. Like I remember as a kid going camping, being like, why can't we stay in a condo like my other friends? My dad being like, this is like awesome. This is nature. And me being like, all my other friends are skiing or doing this or doing that, being like, I'm just, like, why are you making us be this like Cinderella poor kid? Like, why are you doing this to us? And part of it was at the time we're little, my dad at the time didn't, my parents didn't have the money. And the other part of it was like, but when I look back, I'm like, now I love the outdoors, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, like that was such a gift. But for me as a kid, I was like, this is embarrassing. Like everybody else is going to Disney World and I'm going to like see some Civil War memorial camping out in South Carolina. Like this is ridiculous. Now I'm like, oh, that was so cool. So it gave me a lot of compassion. Has your son expressed that to you?
Not in words,
Okay.
but he has shown a lot in what he's allowed me to be a part of Benji's life,
Yeah.
because we were gatekeepers with our parents. Our our upbringing was tumultuous, to say the least. The way we felt at the time when we were raising our kids, we didn't so much trust our parents with our kids.
Yeah.
And because we were like, no, 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 we're not raising our kids anything like we were raised.
Right.
We're not gonna be all heavy-handed. We're not gonna beat their ass just because they're, something stupid like grades or curfew or whatever. So we're gonna be pliable. And we were understanding, we were empathetic with them. I think we did a good job.
Awesome.
I look at them now and they're mature, they're responsible, they work hard. They get up every day and they go to work. They get it. They're, we did something right.
If you could see the world or if you could make 4 changes, what would the world look like? What would your ideal world look like for your grandchild?
One more time, that cut out.
So if you could implement 3 changes to the world, or you could, so start with that. Like, what 3 changes to the world would you have to make a perfect world for your grandchild?
Mm,
What would you like to see happen in the world that you think would?
wow. Wow. 3 things, huh?
3.
Three wishes. Let's see, for Benji's sake. Well, I want to see us. I want to see us. I want to see our hearts and minds reconnect as a society. I want to see that bridge to be built as a society. I want us to see us get there to where we're listening to both wisdom of our heart and of our mind, our logic, and our heart lights at the same time, and allowing that to guide our decisions. Because I think that, like, capacities where well, they've got something different, like something else is activated that wasn't so much in our generation.
Yeah.
And there's more going on up here, and
Yeah.
so that's one. Two, I want to see and I see this coming, but I think there's going to be like a recoil to where we are in this metaverse thing, this post pandemic, where it's kind of forced us, you know what I mean, into.
Yeah.
I want to see the pendulum swing the other way, and I want to see us start hugging each other's necks again, and um, you know, just really being involved with each other physically, being physically present again as much as possible. I don't want and 3, I don't want us to stop communicating at all. above all, I want to make sure.
Kind of all those things you talked about, I felt like we were doing such a good job. Like as soon as we all came out of COVID,
Mm,
everyone was so excited. I felt like, we really had those rose tinted glasses. Everybody was carpe diem. Everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm so glad. I'm just so happy to be in this space. I'm so glad to see." I felt like we I thought we had really learned all these lessons. I was
mm,
so proud of us just as a world, not just
yeah.
America. I have family overseas and it was like, man, everybody really, I'm like, man, this is this is a pivotal time for society. Like we've all like figured it out. Like this has taught us such a lesson. And then I think what happened was, and I'm not a conspiracy person, I don't, but it was like we were doing so well. We had learned the lessons, and it was like, then we got into this oppressive cloud of inflation and toil. And it was like, man, I saw all the things that I thought we had learned wither.
Mm,
And I was like, I know that people still carry that light somewhere,
mm,
but it was like it had grown dim. I mean, if you want to see a microcosm of society, go to a Costco, go
mm.
to a Sam's Club.
Okay.
After the pandemic, people are like, no, you go in the aisle first. No, you go in the aisle first. No, Jenny, you go in the aisle first. No, Jamal, it's your turn. You go ahead and take that last rotisserie chicken. No, I
Mm,
want your family to have it. And now we're like, get out of the way.
mhm,
Everything's expensive. And I'm like, I was one of those people that COVID didn't really affect as
mhm,
much. Like, even though I'm a very extroverted person, I like spending time in my little bubble,
mm,
but I had friends that were single that worked at home, lived at home that really like, they really struggled.
mhm,
I saw kids, I was still teaching in the schools up until COVID hit, and I really saw it take an effect on children. I remember I'd gone back and I was teaching a preschool class, and this one little girl, she was getting along great with the adults, but she couldn't connect with other children. And so I came home to my husband and I was like, man, this kid is so smart. Like, I don't know what's going on. And he was like, Amy, this kid is like 3. She's never been around other children.
mm,
She was born during COVID. And my brain was like, oh, I have a cousin who's living in England right now. And she was like, her daughter's from Eastern Europe and they're not super warm and fuzzy, but this particular family kind of is. And she's like, I would see my daughter go to hug other 2-year-olds and I would see the mothers just recoil in anger and grab their children. And I was like, okay, what are we doing? But I feel like we've learned the lessons, but I feel like, I think you're right. I think we're just kind of in a holding pattern.
mhm,
I think we're going to re-see all of those things, all the lessons that we learned. Maybe we're just still digesting. Maybe we're in like a metabolic state where we're just really digesting all of those things. $100 for a bag of groceries makes it hard to love your neighbor because you're struggling for yourself. But I like what I think the things that you touched on for your grandchild. I feel like, if those 3 things happen, things like hunger, things like racism, things like all of those things, if we were really connected our hearts and our minds together, those problems wouldn't exist,
mhm,
right? Because we'd actually we'd be walking in light,
mhm,
and we would be kind to each other, and there would be sharing, and there would be love, and there would be um yeah, I think there would be empathy and compassion. What do you want your legacy for your grandson to be?
my legacy for him to be,
Yeah,
or like,
for
um,
him.
I want his legacy. I want it to be one of compassion, like empathy, and acceptance. And I think that is going to be the case. I think it's going to be one of just just this is the world. This is what's normal now.
Yeah.
It wasn't what was normal earlier today, but that's how it is now. We're going to keep going. And I believe that is how it's going to be for him. It's just going to be one of adaptability, um, want to just continuous forthright, not getting caught up in all the distractions that are
Yeah.
going on along the way, because the pay.
Yeah, froze. Oh no. Oh no, it froze, and this is the important things I wanted to hear you say. Oh no. Uh-oh. Mm, mm-mm. It's frozen. I can't hear anything. Will it come back? Mm. Okay. Oh, okay. 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 I don't know. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. Oh, okay. I thought it was. Ah. How do I get out of here?
Okay, so that is the end of the 100th episode of Synergy. Thank you to Amy Rosato Novak for being my honorary guest and for making this a success. Hope this works.